If everyone can take their seat, we're going to get started here. It's the food. Okay, can everyone take their seat, please? Rush, take your seat. Jim Roberts, time to sit down. I'm going to have to call everyone out by name. All right, everyone, welcome to Speak Up Newport. We're a organization of civic-minded residents that put on programs of community interest. We have our programs once a month. We also put on our mayor's dinner, and we have a scholarship program. And talking about scholarships, next month we're going to be awarding out scholarships to our local high school students. So tonight our program is on the Crystal Cove State Park. It's an update on the restoration of the cottages. And tonight we have our Councilwoman Diane Dixon, who's going to introduce our speaker this evening.
Well, good evening and welcome, everyone. I'm really excited to introduce this project because we all drive by Crystal Cove State Park, and at least speaking for myself, I've tried to make a reservation on the state park website to have an overnight stay in one of those wonderful cottages, and I have yet to be successful. I guess I have to stay up till midnight and get there right then. But anyway, it's just a wonderful asset that we have within just outside our city limits, and we are so grateful to have this beautiful Crystal Cove State Park. Making it even better is going to be tonight's program because there are 17 cottages that remain to be restored, and a couple of us council members went down about a month or two ago and had our own guided tour by our speaker this evening, and it is a magnificent and a huge challenge because of the cottages that were built over 100 years ago, longer. They're still sustaining, they're still there in their pristine, untouched condition. Interesting, without all those environmental regulations and building standards 100 years ago, they're still standing. So today we have to build them according to new environmental standards and building standards. And so that's what's going to take time and money. But it gives me great pleasure to introduce our speaker, Laura Davick, who is the woman behind this amazing project. Laura was born in a cottage a few decades ago, and it will show us some family pictures. It's part of her whole personal history, and it's been her life mission to restore and bring these cottages back to life. She's going to talk about the Conservancy, the Crystal Cove Conservancy, which it is now known, began their renovation of the original 46 beach cottages, and they've restored all but 17. You raised the funds to do that, and you're going to be talking about that. And now since then, you've completed 2 phases of the restoration to the park, representing already an investment of $23.3 million that has provided unique access to the beachfront, this beautiful, pristine part of our oceanfront, and renovated 29 of the cottages. So tonight, Laura Davick is going to be talking to us about the new phase, the final 3rd phase, the Heritage Legacy Project. Represents the final phase of restoration needed to complete this vision on the remaining 17 historic cottages. So when we went down there a few weeks ago, it was just so fascinating, so interesting, and I thought this would make a perfect Speak Up Newport topic to bring the community into awareness, because this is something we can all support one way or the other because we honor and treasure it. So without further ado, Laura, please join us. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. It is such a pleasure to be here, and especially to be able to speak to you, provide you with some updates, and speak with you about one of my favorite places, I think, on the planet, Crystal Cove. So I thought what I'd do tonight is I would go through a little bit, just a brief little bit of history, talk a little bit about our North Beach project, exactly where we're at, how we're moving forward, the timeline, construction, etc. And then also share with you a little bit about the Conservancy and our education programs, conservation programs. So first of all, Crystal Cove, going back in time, you can see a photo here of the early Crystal Cove with the cottages with the thatched, palm fronds on the roof line. And this is truly what Crystal Cove looked like back in its early day. As many of you know, it was part of the original Irvine Ranch, and it was owned by the Irvine family and the Irvine Company for approximately 100 years. Tent camping became very popular at Crystal Cove, and you can see that the tents lined up here kind of on the, I guess that would be the south end of the park. So tent campers and families would come down. They would come down in June, they would leave in September, and for 3 months they would live literally on the beach. So Diane mentioned to you I have a personal connection to Crystal Cove, and I have to say it runs pretty deep in my family. 4 generations of my family have been fortunate to be at Crystal Cove. My grandparents, my parents, my siblings and I, and my nieces and nephews. But it all started back in 1937 when my mother was 12 years old, and her family went down to set up one of those tents. And so then later in 1940, another family came down, which was the Davick family, and that was my father. So my parents met there in 1940, fell in love. I'm not quite sure what happened in the tents, but something happened in the tents. And they met, fell in love, got married, and then later they acquired cottage number 2. And so cottage number 2 was where I spent pretty much my entire life, from the time I was a year old until 2001. That little chubby girl with the attitude on the right, or on the left, would be me. But anyway, cottage number 2 is a cottage that is right next to the beachcomber. I love this image here because you can see the evolution of how that cottage evolved over the period of about from 1924 through 2006. So you can see the first picture, circa 24. That was when it was actually being used as a film set, okay, for filmmaking down at Crystal Cove. It then later transitioned into the cottage you see on the right, circa 1930. And then in 1964, that's about what it looked like when my family acquired it. And the image, the green image, that's what it looks like fully restored today. So moving forward, it was a private community for very, very many years. And in 1979, it was purchased by the California State Park System, and it became a state park. And the park, many people are not aware of this, includes 3.2 miles of pristine coastline, 400 acres of unspoiled coastal habitat, has about 2,400 acres in the backcountry at Morro Canyon, has an 1,150 acre marine conservation area offshore, and 46 historic cottages that are listed on the National Register of Historic Places. So truly, this park, when I was growing up there as a child, it was kind of in the middle of nowhere. But today, it's completely landlocked. And I think we are so fortunate that it became a state park and that it's still open for all of us to enjoy today. So in 1999, I was actually working in the real estate development business, and I realized that something was about to change at Crystal Cove. Having lived there, I was aware that there was a developer, a private developer, that was going to be turning Crystal Cove into a private resort. They had a 60-year contract issued by California State Parks, and the contract was in its 5th year. I was concerned that we were going to lose Crystal Cove forever, and so I formed a nonprofit organization called the Alliance to Rescue Crystal Cove, not really knowing the first thing about starting a nonprofit organization. But anyway, I knew one thing. I knew that Crystal Cove was going to change, and I was just desperately wanting to make sure that did not happen. So here is an image I pulled today from my archives to show you. So this is one rendering of cottage number 9, which is actually in the North Beach area. Right there, you can see that little historic cottage has the rope hanging in front of it. So the resort plan, this is the rendering for the resort plan, was going to look like the image above it. Kind of almost resembles something of almost like an office building. So when I saw these pictures, it was several years after we got the resort stopped, but I thought this was an interesting image just to show how far this has come and how committed we are to making sure that Crystal Cove is preserved. It is historically significant and is preserved the way it should be. So today, here we are today. And you may have heard over the years, we were known for many, many years as the Crystal Cove Alliance. We rebranded our organization about a year ago, and we are now Crystal Cove Conservancy. So for the last about 4 years, we've been preparing and getting ready to take on our largest preservation project to date. And through that, the rebranding we felt was necessary so that people could really have a clear understanding of what we're doing. So today, our mission is we're a nonprofit public benefit organization employing a social enterprise model to fund important preservation, conservation, and education initiatives that will hopefully cultivate the planet's next generation of environmental stewards and leaders, ensuring that Crystal Cove and places like it live on for generations to come. So it's been 19 years now, this organization, so we're 19 years old, and through this, we have really truly developed something that's quite unique. We've been, we're called a model within the state park world, and the reason for that is a couple of things. So today we have 2 contracts. We're the official nonprofit partner with California State Parks. We also have a subsidiary Crystal Cove Management Company, which is known as Crystal Cove Beach Cottages. And through that organization, we also hold the concession contract, which is like a management contract, okay? So what we do is we run the cottage rental program, and then we have subbed out the food service. So the Beachcomber, the Shake Shack, and all the catering rights, that's handled through our partner, the Beachcomber and the Ruby's Restaurant Group. And through this unique public-private partnership, there's a percentage of revenue that's generated through all of those enterprises that we reinvest back into the park, investing proceeds back into the park to create a sustainable future for Crystal Cove. And the other thing that's important to note is that all donations on the North Beach, as well as any donations that come to our organization, are managed solely by Crystal Cove Conservancy. So Crystal Cove opened to the public for the very first time in 2006, and that was a big day, very exciting time. And at that point, the cottages went up on a reservation system, and as you know, they have been wildly popular ever since. I love seeing these images of people in these cottages making new memories and enjoying them, and when they come, they always feel so much like they've actually won the lottery, and sometimes it almost kind of is in a way. I'll tell you a little bit more about the rental system later. But the one thing I am very proud of is that we are committed to providing low-cost overnight accommodations. And when we were working to try and stop the luxury resort contract, I think the rates back then in 2001 were going to be somewhere between $600 and $700 a night. Today, clearly, they would have been in excess of $1,000 a night. So we have a range of affordable options. We have 2 types of units. We have dorm-style lodges as well as individual cottage rentals. So on our dorm-style options, for example, our open dorm, which will be on the next phase, for a single bed will be at $36 per night, okay? Small private dorm room that sleeps 2 is at $36. Medium private dorm room, sleeps 2 to 4, is at $71. And then we have the large private dorms, sleep 6 for $108. So I think it's important that this is a state park, and I think that it's important that people of average, ordinary income can come and experience this. And then the cottage rates are here listed as well. The other thing, it's a little bit hard to compare rates when you have a cottage that sleeps 9 people. So if you're trying to compare to hotel rates, it's really hard to compare. Plus, we offer free parking that's included. So if you break down the rates on a per bed basis, per person, private dorm rooms, You can actually stay there for as little as $18 a night. Kind of crazy. But it's wonderful because people come from all over and they can have that experience. And then with the cottages, it breaks down to about $27.89 per person. So through the first phase of restoration, 22 cottages were restored. This cottage here is the visitor center, and it's staffed by volunteers, and you can go there and talk to the volunteers that work for the park, get all kinds of great information. This was also the first cottage that was ever built at Crystal Cove, and it was actually, it didn't have a number, it was just Cottage 0 because it was originally the office, okay? And then in the second phase, we restored an additional 7 cottages. That was about a $6.7 million project. Phase 1 was about a it was probably about a $21 million project in all total. But anyway, this piece here, the Education Commons, sits in the middle of the project, and it's right across from where the beachcomber is. The other thing that's important to note is that not every single cottage at Crystal Cove is an overnight rental. When the resort plan got stopped, the planning process that we worked through with a series of other nonprofit organizations in the community basically approved a plan that included not just overnight rentals, but also education facilities, food service, and state park operations. So that is the plan that we're implementing. So this is one of the educational venues in the park. So here we are talking about my very favorite part of the project, which is the unrestored area now. So to date, we have restored, with state parks, 29 of the 46 historic cottages. We have 24,000 overnight stays annually. We have about 2 million visitors to the park each year. And we spent the last 4 years working with Coastal Commission to get the permits for this project. And you can imagine that was probably quite a challenging little exercise. Crystal Cove is a historic community that was built not by architects and engineers, but by the families that built these cottages. And so nothing is really up to code. Nothing is, the way they would like to have it built today. And in addition, there's 0 public access to the new site where the cottages are. This is one of my favorite pictures, which really shows the view that we all see when we drive down Pacific Coast Highway, the view that Diane mentioned. When you come down PCH and you see that beautiful open space and you see El Morro and the beach that's all been restored now, it really, it's just magnificent. So this final project we're calling a Heritage Legacy Project for California. And these last 17 cottages, this completes the final vision for this park. So once this is done, this is it. This is the final piece that will be at Crystal Cove. And so there will be no capital construction projects after this. So we had an artist do this rendering of the North Beach, and I think it's just really beautiful. We have it up on our website, and we've also done individual renderings of each of the cottages. So truly, when this is completed, we will be providing, and our goal is to provide, a sustainable future for tomorrow for this park. And through what I mentioned of the, it's called the Facility Improvement Account, where revenue comes back off of the cottage rentals and food service, comes into an account. It provides revenue to maintain this park. So we maintain all of the cottages through our contract. And once these are completed, all the cottages will be maintained in the same condition that they're being maintained now through our organization. And in addition to that, there will be a surplus of about $500,000 we project that will go directly to expand our education and conservation programs. So this is a new slide that I created just for today. And I think the reason is this. One of our board members said to me, he said, Laura, you keep thinking that Crystal Cove is a Orange County issue. It's really not. This is something that's important to the entire state of state of California and beyond. This is, you can imagine Yosemite and where it was back in 1890 or whenever it was formed, that there was a group of people that were trying to create something grand. And today, that's exactly where we're at today, is really to create a jewel within the entire state park system for the benefit of this community. Here is the project site, the aerial photograph of the 17 cottages. So to go through, and to see the vast, size of this site, you really have to walk past where the end of the road is, down to the beach, and to really see the scope of this project. I'm going to explain in a minute the cost of this project. But before I do, I just want to say that this is probably one of the most challenging projects on the coast of California to do. The site work, just to prepare the site, is over half the cost of the project. It's a 5-year construction schedule, 2 years for the infrastructure and 2 years for cottage restoration. We have to stabilize bluffs behind the cottages. We have to create public access that runs the entire length of the project. So that will be a service path of about 8 feet wide that we can actually provide life safety and shuttle people to and from their cottages. That same path will be used for construction traffic while we're doing the construction over the next 5 years. It goes on and on. Caissons, underground sewer systems. There was never a sewer system there, lift stations, etc. So here's the numbers, okay? So the estimated cost of the project is $35 million. But whenever I say $35 million, immediately I need to say, because people start doing the math and they're like, wait a minute, 17 cottages? But $17.5 million is the cost of just the site preparation, okay? So, and that's, as I mentioned, a 2-year long project. The cottage restoration is at $16.5 million. So the balance needed at this point is still $23 million from what we've raised. However, I have some great news, and this is the first time I've actually said it publicly, with the exception of last night. We had an event down at Crystal Cove, our sponsor party for our soiree. For the last several months, we've been working with the Packard Foundation, and with the idea in mind that they would come in and they would provide a low-interest loan to help fill the gap for the money that's still needed, okay? So on June 8th, which was just last Friday, Packard Foundation approved a $10 million low-interest construction loan to provide the balance of the funds needed for the infrastructure. That is huge. This is like, I can't tell you what a huge milestone this is for this project. It's a 1% construction loan, and it provides the balance of the funds needed. However, the campaign challenge before us is what we're calling the Summer Campaign Challenge, is that we need to raise $5 million in pledges before September 1. You might say, wow, that's a pretty big undertaking. And indeed it is. We've at this point raised 1.1 million, so we have about 3.9 to go, and if my math is correct, I think we have 79 days or so. But anyway, we have a lot of people that we've been talking to over the years that are interested in this project. And so a pledge is basically a promise to make a contribution of 1 to 5 years. So people are coming to us now, and I would encourage anyone that is interested in helping to contact me for additional information. I'd love to talk to you about this. So once this has been accomplished, the infrastructure portion of the project will begin. We are going out to bid. We've been estimating the project for the last several years, but we are going out formally out to bid next week. So contact me if you'd like additional information. And also, we have the first of its kind donor recognition plan that's been approved. It took us about 6 years going through negotiations with state parks to get this approved, and it has finally been approved about a couple of months ago. So this provides some very, very interesting recognition and some benefits for people that are involved in the project. So we are thrilled to have the Packard Foundation involved in this project, and I just can't tell you what this means, I think, to moving this thing forward. So the other part of the project that will be included in the 17 cottages is also a coastal engineering program. So you might say, well, what the heck is that? Coastal engineering program we're working on with the Henry Samuel School of Engineering and UCI to develop programs, because Crystal Cove is a perfect place to study everything that is affecting the coast of California, from sea level rise to coastal adaptation, climate change, and a variety of other topics that are becoming more and more important to building along the coast of California. So we have one cottage, Cottage 20, the little red one, that will be turned into a dorm unit. This will be the first open bed dorm unit. By that I mean a typical dorm style. You can rent a bed in there for, I think it's $36 a night. But for 36 nights out of the year, we were actually given a $1 million endowment from the Coastal Commission to help us fund and develop these programs. We'll be bringing high school students down to spend a 2-night stay and to help us study engineering along the coast of Crystal Cove. So next, here's a couple of pictures of currently what the cottages look like. Here, this little gray cottage, one of my favorites. Here's another one. But you can see they look like they're in very bad shape. And many of them are. And so here, I love this. We have a construction fence around the project now, and we were down taking some photographs, and this woman came up to me with her daughter, and she says, "When are you ever going to get these done?" And I said, "Well, we're working on it." I said, "Stand right there. I want to get a picture of you." And it's such a great picture. But it really summarizes that there is zero public access to this whole part of the park right now. This picture I love. This is one of the unrestored cottages as it looks today from the inside. And I have to tell you, you walk in there and you just go, "Oh my gosh, this is going to be amazing." The family that had this cottage, they put in that stained glass window above the door, and it came from Carmen Miranda's house in Los Angeles. So each cottage, very, very unique, individual, and fabulous. So the other thing I want to leave you, or not leave you with, but the other thing I want to share with you is that, people think of Crystal Cove, they think of the cottages, they think of the beachcomber, and all of that is wonderful, but there's so much more going on there. A lot more than just the cottages. So we're really working with building education programs to inspire the next generation. And we think that Crystal Cove makes the perfect outdoor classroom. So we have a variety of places where we do our programs. A couple that I've selected here. The Marine Protected Area Citizen Science Cruises, taking high school students offshore to study everything from water quality to fish populations, and helping to determine whether or not the marine protected area is actually working and if the habitat is coming back. We also have programs down at what we call the Burns Environmental Study Loop, which is down in Morrow Canyon, and participants there collect data to help evaluate how the restoration of that whole site is coming along, and to help inform state parks and resource managers about how the resources are as far as habitat. So our education programs have grown substantially over the last several years. Now in 2018, we've got about 5,000 students coming down. Here are some numbers from our 2018. This will be in our annual report. We had about 5,300 students down, 136 field trips, 50 different schools participating. 18% increase in participation in education programs over the prior year, and about 64% of our scholarship funding is to underserved Title I schools. So truly we hope that we are inspiring the environmental leaders for the future. And a couple of things before we go to questions on how you can help. So first of all, I do a public tour once every month. It's on the third Sunday of each month. It happens to be this Sunday, Father's Day, so if you would like, bring your father or bring yourself and come down. We meet on the deck at check-in, so you'd want to park across the street at Los Trancos, walk across PCH, don't go down into the lower area, and you look towards the American flag, which is the deck at check-in. So we spend about 2 hours. We go in about 10 cottages, and you'll get to see firsthand a lot of what's going on down there and kind of become experts. We like to give out kind of hot tips on the rental program, as well as educate people about this important resource. Also, we'd love for you to become a member of Crystal Cove Conservancy. You could also make a tax-deductible contribution or multi-year pledge towards our Heritage Legacy Project. And also, you can join us at our 16th annual soiree, which is our big annual fundraising event on the Bluff on October 6th. So with that, I'm going to open it up for questions, and I hope I haven't taken too much time, about a half hour, I think, right? Okay, yes.
Right away, thank you so much. Oh, thank you, Ed. Thank you, Laura, for the excellent presentation and for your years and years of dedication to making this happen. On behalf, first of all, I think, yes, nice round of applause for you.
Thank you.
On behalf of our former mayor, Diane Dixon, what's the trick?
What's the trick? Okay, I was hoping that the rental question would come towards the end, but let's just tackle it right now. So here's the thing. Reservation system has changed. It used to be that it was the first of the month at 8 o'clock in the morning. Everything went up online for 1 month, 6 months in advance. New system started. So you go to Reserve California. You can make a reservation any day now, and for 6 months forward. Okay, you have to go to their website and get a login, which is your email identification that gets you an account, so you can become able to book the cottage. Okay, so I have to tell you, I had not tried the new reservation system. A couple of weeks ago, I went online and I thought, I'm just going to try it because I really need to be able to say, I've done it, right? And I have to tell you, I got one. I got one. Not only did I get one, but I got 2 units in a dorm that only has 2 units, so I got the whole entire cottage. So I'll invite you all down when I have that night. But anyway, it's, you just have to get familiar with the system. But if you go to our website, crystalcove.org, click on cottages, there's a one-pager that tells you exactly, walks you through how to do it. And the other thing I would say is look at the crystalcove.org website portion before you go to Reserve California, and take a look at the cottages and see which ones might be of interest to you. Because we have a variety of, some sleep 3 or 4, some sleep up to 9. So I would do that. And then lastly, I would say, come on my tour. If you really want to, get familiar with what's happening, you can go in a lot of the cottages and see which ones are your favorites, and then pick those, okay? So I hope that helps. Pardon me? And you have to be very fast. So, okay, just one more thing. When you click on the cottage and when you go to reserve the cottage, okay, if it asks for your payment information, you're in the front door. Just know that. And then you have like 15 minutes to complete that sale. So you will look for availability on the website. You'll click, whatever those are, and then reserve. And then, like I said, if they ask for the payment information, you're in. You've got 15 minutes. Then you can go back and read and see if it's what you want. Okay? You're welcome.
Laura, maybe you could talk about, you have special programs with the Braille Institute too, don't you?
Right.
And special access wheelchairs. Maybe people know about that. Maybe
yes,
that's
we
a
do.
very good
we
program.
help raise funds for beach wheelchairs, and there are a series of them there at the entrance. There's also a series of ADA parking spaces on the ocean side. So if you have someone that that has an ADA placard, you can come in, you can park down right by where the restrooms are, right in the hollow there. And if you need a wheelchair, we have the beach wheelchairs that you can take down the beach. They're fantastic. We do have a series of programs. We have done programs for Braille, and we're always looking at bringing new people into the park that can experience it in a new and different way. And in the back, I will also say, we have these postcards that we've just put up, and there are a series of programs, more than we've ever had before during the summertime. So we have plein air painting classes for the family, individual painting classes. We have community days, which is every Wednesday. You can come down and learn how to wrap a piece of beach glass and make a piece of jewelry, no charge. We have beach bazaars coming up. We have 3 movies on the beach coming up this summer, and it's kind of like going to the drive-in. It's like a big inflatable screen that pops up on the sand. You just bring your chair and come on down. Summer art shows and all kinds of things. So I would pick one of these up on your way out. They're also on our website. Okay?
Exhibit on Japanese families,
Mhm.
And it's wonderful. And I was wondering if you have any docents that lead tours of that or know about it, or anybody who's related to the families who used to
Right.
live there.
Right. You're talking about the exhibits that are up in the cultural center, up on the
Yeah.
bluff next to the
Right.
next to check-in.
Yeah.
And it's a great exhibit. We do not have any docents that are specifically doing docent programs just on that. We do have docents now down at cottage number 13, which is the Film and Media Center where they film the movie Beaches. So we've opened that up. And in the years to come, you'll see the volunteer program growing and growing. It's managed by state parks right now, and probably more resources are needed to expand that. But not right now, but hopefully in the future. But there is information in my book about that as well. Okay.
Laura, are you making these presentations all around, or is this your first one?
This is not my first one. Over 19 years, I think I've made a few of them. But at this particular moment, we're working on this, as I mentioned, this challenge, summer challenge. And so I have to take these kind of on a case-by-case basis, but I love doing them, and I love getting the word out, and I love sharing where we're at. So, if you're interested, please contact me, and, depending upon scheduling and what have you, I do the best I can. But we have a relatively small staff, and we have a big goal to raise by September 1, so I think you want me out there fundraising. Okay, next question. Yes. Oh, sorry.
First of all, I think that this might have been a very expensive resort, and now it's so accessible to so many people, and I spend a lot of time there myself. And another tip, if you're still doing the drawing of new members,
Yes, please share that.
Join, because I literally won the lottery. I had no idea. I joined as a member, and I got a call saying, "You've won 2 nights in a cottage." And I stayed, and it was terrific. So, so I'm sorry, I'm taking too much time. Are still the emails for cancellations? Because this is in the past.
Through the membership program?
Well, no, you could sign up for that you would get an email when there was a cancellation.
Yes,
yeah.
that is no longer that is no longer being done now.
Okay.
But it is my understanding that the new reservation system with Reserve California, they're going to be rolling out new benefits over the next probably year to come. It may come back, but it's not.
Yeah,
not
that
going
was
right
a
now.
program. If you
Yeah.
registered your email, you would get notice when there was a cancellation. The only thing was I became convinced that everybody got up earlier than me, or it was East Coast people who were getting it. But my other question is, obviously, this campaign is so important for you, but do you have some other needs? Do you have need for operating funds until you have full revenue, volunteers, or what else can we do?
Obviously, we always have needs for revenue and for members and for people to become kind of engaged and passionate about helping with our work. I will say that, for those of you that are in the community, you really, if you know Crystal Cove, you can be a great ambassador for us. And maybe you may not know someone, or you may know someone that has a real passion for Crystal Cove. And as we try to close this gap now through September 1st with pledges, I like to say, people think, well, $3.9 million, that's a huge amount of money to raise. However, every dollar counts. Every dollar counts, and the quality, I think, that this community and the quality of life that Crystal Cove brings to all of us is we're so fortunate that it's here. And so anything that anybody would like to do to try and help with our restoration, greatly appreciated. We'd love for you to become members, and even just go to our website and sign up to receive our monthly newsletters. We put together a monthly e-newsletter. It has 5 short little articles you can click on for more information, but you can stay connected to the park and follow what we're doing. And also maybe go to the website under North Beach Restoration and just kind of watch and monitor, what we're doing. We're trying to keep that really current so that people can follow along with the project as we try and finish this last phase. So I don't know if that answers your question. But you might know someone that might like to make a pledge as well. So my phone number on the website, 949-887-0062. Okay. Anyway, yes.
Thank you. When you finished the physical buildings, how were they furnished?
Okay.
Who furnished them?
Okay.
Where did the furnishings come
Okay.
from?
So, all the cottages are restored back to the period of 1935 to 1955. So that's the first piece. And so then each cottage is given a particular theme, whether it be pre-war or post-war, okay? And then when we were doing the first phase, they were putting together a team of people to furnish the cottages. I was one of 4 people that was on that team. And I have to tell you, it was a learning experience. I think there were 160 different shapes of windows in the first phase, and nobody wanted to take on window treatments. And I was like, oh, I'll do that. How tough can it be, right? So I had somebody come down, and I said, okay, let's look at some various fabric samples. I presented them to State Parks, and they said, those are not period appropriate. And I said, excuse me? Period appropriate. They have to be from 1935 to 1955, the fabric. So every single piece that's put in those cottages is historic. All furnishings are historic. They're from the period of 35-55. And the whole purpose is that we want this to be historically accurate, right? I had looked at these books that were like cottage chic, like you can see at different places. And I said, how about this? And they were like, no, that's not period appropriate. So anyway, so each of the cottages are furnished. And as we've now been open for about 12 years, we're now going through replacements. We do accept some limited donations. We don't have places to store them now, though. But when we finish the last phase, we'll be reaching out to the community to see if they have anything they'd like to donate. And it's always fun to have donated pieces inside the cottages. So, okay. So if there are any other questions? So if there are no other questions, I would just say on the back table, there's some great information I'd love for you to pick up. Everything from information about the North Beach Project to membership brochure to our programs for the summer. And please come down to Crystal Cove, enjoy it. We're so lucky it's here in our backyard. This Sunday I am doing a tour, so if you come down, if anybody comes down, say I was at Speak Up Newport, I'm going to figure out a prize, okay? Some kind of a prize. I don't know. I'll figure out something. But anyway.
I just want to say, I've learned so much tonight, Laura. This is not a static state park. This is a state park in our backyard on the most beautiful part of our coastline that is active with programs for people of any age and any interest. So you've really, I think, expanded our awareness,
Well,
and
good.
it's such a treasure. So
Yes.
thank you for all you're
Come
doing.
down and enjoy it.
Well, thank you.
All right, thank you.
I've known you since you got started on this. You've really come a long way from back in the early days. It's really terrific what you've done there. Okay, so we have a drawing for the book. Janice, you have that? There's no truth to the rumor that I put 10 tickets in here. However, I did see Rush Hill stuffing the bowl. Karen Carlson. Lucky lady. All right, well, thanks so much for coming this evening. Next month, our program is going to be on July 11th. Outgoing Sheriff Sandra Hutchins will be our guest to give her perspective as she leaves her office. So please be sure to join us next month. And as a final note, hearty thank you to the bungalow for providing the food. They do a good job every month, so we really appreciate that. So good night, and we'll see you all next month.